want to say a special thank you to the members of our Fourth Universalist Choir for learning Portuguese for that refrain. I had told them earlier today, they're some of the few North Americans not of Brazilian descent that probably know this melody, so that's an honor they can carry with them, so thank you guys. Between February 19th and March 7th of this year, I traveled to Brazil, and as always, I returned with more than just memories. I brought back new perspectives, new questions, and yes, even a 10-day stint of COVID that had me out of commission for a little while upon my return. But despite that, I of course have a deep affection for Brazil, and all that my journeys have continued to offer me. Today on March 23rd, we find ourselves just weeks past the time period of Carnaval, a time of vibrant celebration, which for many marks a period of indulgence before the introspection of Lent in the Catholic calendar. Just like Mardi Gras, Carnaval is that final grand exhale before a season of restraint. It's also a living testament to syncretism, a tradition shaped by colonial Portuguese Catholic influences, indigenous customs, folklore, and African spiritual traditions, the latter of which we will explore today. All of these entwine to define the vast cultural and religious framework of its people. At the heart of this pre-Lenten celebration in Rio de Janeiro is its most iconic musical expression, Samba, a vibrant tradition and great patrimony of Brazilian culture that will be the focus of our hands-on exploration this morning. Before we begin, I just want to express my deep gratitude to all of our musicians, Brazilian musicians joining us today in this music, especially Everton Isadoro, our guest clinician, and his accompanying musicians for sharing their expertise and helping our choir and myself engage with this music carefully today. And thank you also to my colleague Anne Bocato. She was our pronunciation coach and sent some very meaningful pronunciation guides to our choir over these past few weeks as well. And I also want to say just a quick thank you to CJ Pares and Judy Jones, and also Stephen Cuevas, who led choir rehearsal while I was encumbered with COVID the past few weeks. So thank you. Unlike many who travel to unwind and escape their routines, I have been fortunate to travel to Brazil to engage hands-on and to challenge myself musically, artistically, and culturally. My love for this culture 5,000 miles away began during my graduate studies at Manhattan School of Music, where I had the opportunity to take half a dozen classes dedicated to Brazilian music history, as well as to its vast rhythmic traditions. Over the years, I've been privileged also to be connected with diverse and revered Brazilian musicians, such as a guitarist named Ginga, as well as Chico Pinheiro, another guitarist, among many others. And each of my 4 visits to this country thus far has connected me with new musical pockets, each time pushing me into an array of even newer questions I have and newer curiosities. This past February, so just a few weeks ago, I attended Carnival celebrations in both the northeast of Brazil and in the south, culminating in a week in Rio de Janeiro during the height of the festivities. There, I spent 3 separate nights at the Sambódromo, also known as Sapucaí, where the most spectacular manifestations of samba take place. The experience at this stadium is anything but relaxing. It's an 8-hour, essentially an 8-hour marathon of music, movement, spectacle. Each samba school, or enredo, scheduled for the evening, takes the stage for 45-minute intervals, performing a single song repeatedly in an ever-evolving, maximalist display of percussion, dance, and visual storytelling. Like the obsessive musician I am, I always try to be seated near the percussion section, otherwise known as the bateria, because I love to watch closely as the band of hundreds of instrumentalists vary the rhythm of the enredo's central theme, and I always try to transcribe the layers in real time. Each samba school tells a story through its performance, complete with massive floats, hundreds of dancers, and a unifying theme. These performances are not only simply for entertainment, but they are deeply tied to cultural identity and community pride. The winning enredo, or theme song of this year's competition, was by a school, as Romulo had mentioned, named Beija-Flor, from the community in Rio de Janeiro named Nilópolis. You might have noticed that this song we heard earlier today as our opening hymn was, in fact, this award-winning song. And I was so taken aback by this beautiful samba melody when I had heard it in real life that I transcribed the whole thing on my flight home to be prepared for performance today. Samba schools draw inspiration from a vast range of Brazilian traditions, including folkloric, indigenous, and Afro-Brazilian influences. The lyrics of Beija-Flor's enredo reference figures from Umbanda and Candomblé, which are two Afro-Brazilian religions that blend West African Yoruba spiritual traditions with Catholicism and indigenous beliefs. These religions celebrate the Orishas, otherwise known as spiritual deities who guide and protect. As they are referenced in a samba enredo like Beija-Flor's, these spiritual traditions remain alive in the allegories of ancestry and gratitude, calling upon spiritual deities like Shango, Ogum, and Oya, who are forces of justice, strength, and transformation. While not all samba schools necessarily invoke these traditions, many do, and affirming that there is, in fact, a deep cultural and historical connection between Brazilian music and, of course, Afro-Brazilian spirituality. The song we have programmed as our meditation today, that we'll hear later on, Eu vi Mamãe Oxum na Cachoeira, which translates to, I saw Mother Oxum at the waterfall, is a spiritual invocation also from the Afro-Brazilian Candomblé tradition. It is a call to Oxum, the goddess of fresh waters, love, and fertility. And Oxum is often depicted as a maternal figure, a protector, and a symbol of deep emotional and spiritual wisdom. The lyrics describe a vision of Oxum at the waterfall, which is a place of cleansing and renewal, where she offers her blessing and guidance. This song, to me, is a testament of what I consider an immense deal of generosity inherent in Brazilian culture. The deep commitment to preserving, honoring, and interweaving the diverse traditions and spiritual lineages that remain alive in Brazil. From what I've noticed, a true heirloom of Brazilian culture is there's an ideal that syncretic traditions don't necessarily coexist, but they enfold and they enrich each other, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. It's certainly not limited to just samba, but this willingness to pay homage and to acknowledge ancestry, history, and spiritual lineage is an act of profound respect that I've found everywhere, especially in Brazil. It's evident in the grand spectacle of the samba schools, but it's all equally true in the more intimate manifestations of samba. As you imagine, there are different iterations of this sort of ways in which you can present this music. Specifically, what I would think of is the roda de samba, spelled R-O-D-A, which is a small circle of musicians you might commonly find sitting together in an open bar, a backyard, or a street corner. Musicians of all abilities sit or stand in a circle, passing samba melodies, rhythm, and energy between them as listeners clap, sing along, and even join in the music making. And unlike a formal performance with a distinct separation between artists and audience, the roda is interactive, and everyone present is invited to be a part of the experience. Roda translates to wheel in Portuguese, and I've done my best to try to create our own inner circle or inner wheel today. It's very central, I found, this paradigm, this wheel, in a lot of Brazilian musical pedagogy, and particularly in many of its southern traditional styles, such as choro or samba. It's a space where music is taught, learned, and shared communally. It is not a hierarchical system where a single teacher dictates knowledge, but a fluid exchange where musicians can respond to each other. And this challenges me deeply as a musician trained in the Western classical and jazz idioms. The idea of a wheel forces me to rethink what it means to learn, to teach, to engage, and to consider that education is not simply about imparting information. It's about connection. The roda de samba is a powerful example of what community can look like in music making. In a few minutes, our guest clinician, Everton Isadoro from Bahia, Salvador, Bahia, in the northeast of Brazil, will lead us in an interactive exploration of body percussion, inviting us to listen not just with our ears, but with our entire bodies. And in doing so, we will engage with a fundamental principle of samba, that music is not just something to be performed, but it's something to be lived and something that belongs to all of us. I close out this portion of the sermon by stating that Brazilian culture, in its essence, is deeply generous. It is a culture that not just embraces and weaves together, but it invokes through allegory its many traditions into something dynamic and enduring that represents the complexity of its people. Whether in an intimate roda de samba configuration, or an augmented manifestation of hundreds of people and drummers and dancers. Samba is the coming together of a community to realize a greater theme, and it's the collective effort of people to create something larger than themselves.